We're waiting for our guests to get here.
Good drink.
Hello.
Oh, the
my
both of you on one screen.
I know Austin's computer is being a piece of shit, so we're together tonight. There you are. Do you want a koozie?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I don't like koozies.
That's not even true.
I don't always want to use a koozie.
Whatever.
Hey,
What are you doing?
My screen didn't automatically resize, so Genesis's face was cut off. Also, my God, it's hard to say Genesis's. Anyway.
Could just say Jen's.
I could.
Yeah.
I could have.
That's what I do.
Genesis is a little long.
Do you
That
want
was for Fada.
coaster?
If you don't want me to put my drink on your mouse pad.
Is that a square wine glass? It's like,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
Yeah, they're from Crate and Barrel. I got them for my birthday, like maybe 3 years ago. It's like the one thing that I've ever asked for my mom, where she's like actually gotten the specific one I asked for, not like an off-brand or something
Mhm.
almost. Anyway,
That's lovely
it's a
when
whole
that
thing.
happens.
Yes. So I love these glasses. Can you take away all the squeaky toys from her, please?
I don't think there's a squeaky in that one.
That there's 2 on the ground. Sorry, we were just unprepared.
No, it's all good.
The Costco ones. Thanks.
Now she wants these because she sees me getting them.
Well, put them on the desk and she won't be able to. My God, Austin.
It's all right. This is pre-show. We're fine.
Yeah. It was just very loud in my ear.
I know. I was squeaking the toys, and now you want them. Can y'all hear us both like equally?
Yeah, you're good on that. We just can't see Austin.
Yeah,
He moves around a lot.
No,
We
you
don't
just
have to see him.
Well, the people who listen, I assume the majority of your listeners, they don't. They will listen on whatever platform.
Nice.
Now I need you. No, after
Now
I do
you're
this,
repping Assassin's Creed Lorecast.
I need you to like do that thing where you muffle out my voice.
No, no one's doing that for you.
I killed the Iron Bull.
Oh, God.
Okay.
I still remember that Patreon chat like it was yesterday. Oh, my God.
I have never heard such a silence in the chat.
There we
And
go.
especially
I'll just
in
do the
our
whole show like this.
Wait, I feel like I'm not in on a joke. I was not there.
Okay, so in one of the Patreon chats, we were talking about some kind of romance stuff. So, like, anytime Jen has brought up one of her Dragon Age romance, I'm like, oh, yeah, I killed them in my first playthrough. And so we were talking
He killed
about
Severin. He killed Anders. And then I was like...
Well, so we were talking about Anders. I was like, oh, yeah, my first playthrough, I killed him. And she goes, first you killed Severin, and now you killed Anders. The next you're going to tell me is that you killed the Iron Bull. She had not played Trespasser at that point and did not know what would happen. And so everyone in the chat just like silence for like 3 minutes.
And usually when we have patron chats, like our like physical Zoom chat is blowing up. Snips.
No, get in your bed.
Come here.
Yeah, it was complete silence. And then I was like, I was like, oh no, the silence screams louder than words. What did you do?
Awkward.
No spoilers, but spoilers.
We talked about it. We
No,
talked
I mean,
about it
just
in
them
his
not
episode.
saying anything
Oh yeah.
during that
Bull
moment.
Bull was an accident because I'm notorious for my first playthrough of an RPG just blowing through it and only doing the things that interest me. And so I didn't really do his side quest because it's like, I don't want to do anything with the Kunari. They were the bad guys. And so then I'm in Trespasser and he comes up, I'm like, oh, well, crap.
Yep.
Nothing personal, boss.
Oh, I hate that so much.
Okay.
I mean, it's really good storytelling. I love it, but I also hate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Should we I need to plug in my phone and then we can get started.
Can you do that? It's fine.
Sure.
It's dying.
It's because you don't charge it at night.
You're right. It's because I don't. I have a confession to make to you right now.
Me?
Yes. I didn't go to sleep last night.
At all?
Like, I have not slept since Thursday night. Or no,
Okay.
Wednesday night.
Yeah, last night was Thursday night.
I tried, but then that's how I got that far in Baldur's Gate, and I'm now on my fourth playthrough because I could not sleep, and I got up and went to do that, and then I did the dishes at 5 a.m.
Yeah. Well, I'm still on my first playthrough, so that just illuminates the differences in our playing styles perfectly.
So I didn't finish my Dark Urge playthrough because I got mad about it because I accidentally slept with Minthara, and then Lizelle broke up with me, and
How do you accidentally sleep with Minthara?
Listen.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. And then she broke up with me. And now I'm locked out of I didn't actually get a romance scene with Minthara. So I'm not romancing with Minthara. But Lizelle says I slept with her. And so
You don't save scum?
well, at that point I had to save scum and go all the way back before I killed Orin. And I was like, I don't want to do that again. Sorry, I spoiled a little bit.
I wasn't paying attention because the dog.
Like that one time I accidentally romanced Blackwall and went back in the game 16 hours to before the Haven fight. Also, I could romance Solus again. Not even the first time.
I think I'm gonna climb the bear. Climb the Mount
Yes. You have to. It's so good. V even got me a cup. It says, thank you for visiting Mount Halcyon. I climbed all the way to the top.
Yes. I love it.
So yeah. But I was proud of my Dark Urge playthrough because I originally was like, oh, I'm just gonna side against the tieflings. But there was
There's so much.
It makes zero tactical sense for anyone to side with the goblins.
Pretty much, yeah.
But I figured out how to recruit Minthara and side with the Grove, which is, I'm pretty sure.
Isn't it the temporary?
Yeah, it's something about temporary hostile, and you have to use non-lethal damage. And then she shows up at Moonrise.
Yep.
But I think we're ready for some Dragon Age.
Yes, enough Baldur's Gate 3 chat. Except for the fact that I made it to Act 2 last night with my Dark Urge, and this is my third playthrough. And that is, yeah. We will end that there. All right, here we go. Where's what I want? There we go. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Two Girls, One Ship, the podcast where we analyze, rate, and review all that the world of video game romances has to offer. I'm Genesis, the girl who really wanted to quit her Dark Urge playthrough last night because of one stupid action. No spoilers.
And I'm Bravada, the girl who will want you to spoil that for me later because I am currently in Act 1 of my Dark Urge playthrough and I don't want to mess up. So help me out.
Okay, totally will. And if you're new here, welcome to the beautiful chaos. But you should know that our podcast centers on character and romance analysis and doesn't shy away from exploring the fun of fucking.
Or from the deep emotional connections built between two or more characters using specific in-game dialogue, usually, but not really tonight. But still, if you want to stay spoiler-free, then this is definitely not the podcast for you.
Why don't we allow our two super special guests tonight to do the spoiler alert?
What? Yeah. Here's your fucking spoiler warning.
All right. Okay, and if you did not recognize that voice, that was Austin, aka Teacup, and with him is his lovely, lovely co-host only. They're totally not together at all. She Cup or Shelby.
Who are you?
Hello. Never met you before, ever.
Oh,
Yeah. Not married, but they do have a podcasting empire built together.
Not quite an empire. Just
I mean,
a fun
it's
time.
kind of an empire.
Nah.
your Discord is pretty huge and
That's-
very, very active.
Very reactive. Sometimes a little bit too reactive.
Yes.
Nah.
Oh, but of course, at the end of every Dragon Age wrap up, or at the end of every Dragon Age series, we have had you guys on to talk about all of the Dragon Age romances. And we have a lot to go through tonight because there were 8 romance options in Dragon Age Inquisition. So I know it's going to be difficult, but I think we have to try and stay on focus and on topic tonight. We'll see how that goes. We started off our series with Sarah. So I think we'll just go down the same list of how we came out with the episodes and we'll go through it. We'll go through that way. So thoughts and feels about Sarah. Would you ever romance her?
I have romanced her. First Dragon Age Inquisition romance was Sarah. I don't know why I played as a girl for my first, because I normally do boy first playthrough and then go and do a female the next playthrough, but I don't remember why. But I did romance Sarah first time, and I don't remember why I did it, but I was, let's see, Dragon Age Inquisition came out in 2014, so I was 22? Yes. 22. Very different. I don't think I would do it now. I don't think it's a very immature romance for me, but not like the same way that Alistair is immature. Like, it's not gross immature. It's just like, no, this isn't the stage of life I'm in anymore.
That's interesting because I kind of feel like it is gross immaturity. Like, she makes poop jokes. Like, she thinks swearing is funny. You know, she thinks crass language is hilarious. So I do feel like it is that kind of same immaturity as Alistair. And Jen, I feel the same way as you do. I think it's you that has said it feels weird to romance Alistair, like, as an adult. I very much feel that way with Sarah because I feel like she's so much younger than me. Like, when I'm playing the game, look at her as like a friend or a sibling, somebody that like I need to like shepherd along the path of like being a real adult. And so it feels weird to me to romance her because of that. I also have issues with the fact that like the only lesbian romance we have in the game is Sarah. And if you're an elf, and you believe in the elven gods, you're kind of screwed. You can't romance her. She breaks up with you. So it's just kind of frustrating that there's like the one lesbian romance that we have, exclusively lesbian romance, I should say, is internalized hatred and breaks up with you because you are religious. I think that's kind of shitty. So that's my major issue with Sarah's romance.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. She's like in my notes, I had manic pixie fairy, and that type of attitude is just not somebody for me. We'd be great friends, little sister vibes for sure, but not somebody that I could be romantically involved with. I mean, no, I couldn't even do like friends with benefits level. It just feels too young.
Yeah, like I think there was an age and a time in my life that I would have liked her, and I was too old for her already when Inquisition came out. So she wasn't for me either. She was definitely like friend material, like you said. But I think that is a big hang up for me is the other romances provide you with an opportunity to, most of the other romances, because Solus doesn't really, but like provide you with an opportunity to kind of like enlighten them a little bit or like expand their worldview and make them a little more tolerant maybe, but not Sarah. Like, not really. She has a hard line and gives you a lot of ultimatums that if you don't answer the right way for her, not necessarily what you might believe in, she's just done with you forever. And I'm not an ultimatum person, so wouldn't work.
Yeah,
And she finds a romance in the end that I think fits perfectly for her.
yes, yes, for sure. And I think I was going to add, I think Solus allows you, if you're a non-elf, or even I guess a little bit if you're an elf and you're just his friend, like he does allow himself to be changed by friendship, but not necessarily in the romance. And I mean, it's interesting that the two elf romances both have those kind of hard lines in the sand. I'm not sure if they're trying to make a point, but it's just an interesting coincidence.
Mm-hmm. I also think, and this is just me, I think one of the reasons why like my Sarah romance didn't become my canon one is because of like the culmination scene where you shave whatever into your privates, and it was immersion breaking for me. Like it didn't feel like something that would happen in the universe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very much like even from a physicality standpoint, like do they have razors, like a good bic that's not going to cut you, or are you sitting there with a knife and some shaving cream that you formulated? Like I completely get that. Like nobody's shaving back then.
No.
And
I should
imagine her
say,
with a Venus.
Yes.
Right.
oh my god, yeah. I do like Sarah as like a friend, as just a companion. I do of course have my criticisms of her, but I really like her as just a companion. I'm just not a fan of her romance.
Great. All right. So moving on to Blackwall. Now I had Lumber Daddy of my dreams on here.
Oh, we refer to the Blackwall romance as tits out in the stable.
Hell yeah.
I also refer to it as fucking Chuck because that's exactly what he does. And it just drives me crazy.
Yeah. 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 I can't argue against either of those statements.
Like at least throw a blanket on her. Jeez.
Or like
maybe it
close
was a
the
nice
window,
warm
get a
night.
curtain, anything.
He couldn't close the window. They were in the stable. They were in the hayloft.
But he could have gotten a makeshift
The
curtain.
drafts.
But
That's
like,
true.
okay, just let's think about it logistically for a second. They're fucking in that bed in the hayloft with this right next to the open window for every damn body in Skyhold to see. I'm sorry, that is not romantic to me.
I mean, But everyone in Skyhold already knows your business.
Okay, but that doesn't mean they have to see it in the act.
I feel like Blackwall gives you that like that kind of role play of like, I'm just a little common folk lady, you know, because you're in the stables and he's got this rugged man of the people about him. But like you're the Inquisitor, you have a really great bed at the top of the castle. Why not go there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. I also, this is another one that like I like Blackwall fine enough as a companion and a friend, but the romance just doesn't do it for me. There's just way too much miladying going on, and that rubs me the wrong way.
Wait, you don't like that?
No, you should know I don't like that.
Yeah. I think also like the timing of the Blackwall romance for me sometimes gets me because like he gives you that sad story about the dog. And then you get your romance scene and then he leaves.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
it's very depressing.
yeah.
And I think that I do feel like the Blackwall romance could have been done a little bit differently and made it feel less like you were lied to. Because you are lied to, but you're also lied to in several other romances. That's not a new thing coming into play here. But I don't know. I just feel like agree with you, Austin. The timing of it all is a little sus.
Well, like, I mean, he lied and it was kind of a big deal, but it's not even like the biggest deal lie in the whole of the romances either. And yet he gets like thrown into prison and he's just like, oh my God, you should just kill me and hate me forever. Forget I even exist. Like he's so self-deprecating. And I know that's because of where he's at as a person, but to me, that's when I was like, oh, I don't really dig this romance, because when she's like, I have to believe it was real, I was like, you're reading so stupid to me right now. Like, if a man was in a jail cell in front of me in a dungeon being like, I literally lied to you about everything, and we had already like had sex, and then also with the audacity to leave me in the stables, I don't think I would be like, oh, but it's fine, I forgive you, so fast. Like, I think it didn't feel earned, but that was the only way to keep the romance going in the game. So you had to say that if you wanted to keep it. So I don't know. I wish it was like he had to earn your trust back a little bit. Maybe that's too far for a game. Maybe that's like too in depth. But it didn't feel real anymore at that point. The miladying didn't bother me, except it did get a little much, because once again, like everyone who is directly answering to you, it does kind of, when they start calling you milady or milord or whoever, whatever they say, Inquisitor, it's like, oh gosh, yeah, I'm your boss. Ew. Don't make me remember that.
In bed, yeah. Yeah, it's just it's an interesting, I think, also dichotomy between the Soulless Mancers and the very few Blackwall Mancers that may be lurking out there in the shadows. Because I feel like I have seen like a good chunk of people who romance Soulless specifically hating on Blackwall on the internet. And I'm just like, guys, do we not see the irony here? Like, you really can't love Solus and criticize Blackwall too much for his behavior in this game. Like, and they have great dialogue that follows up on it. Like, great dialogue where they're at each other's throats. And then later on, where Blackwall like comes back to the party and Solus, I don't remember the exact line, but he has something reflective to say that's like, maybe I judged you too harshly or something to that effect. And it's like playing this back again is like, yeah, maybe you freaking did.
I agree with that. I definitely see the parallels. I don't hate Blackwall. I don't want to romance him because it's not for me. But also, like, I don't blame anyone who does. I think for the most part, it's really cute. I love the courtly aspect of it. And if you don't romance him, it's not like he ends up with someone either. So you might as well, if that's who you want to romance. But I will not be a soulless hypocrite. Like, Solus lies, I think, way more than Blackwell does. We'll get to where I think they're different. I already did an episode, but we can talk about it again a little bit later when we get to Solus.
I do want to say really quickly, I'm pretty sure I should have verified this, but I didn't. I'm pretty sure that if you don't romance Blackwell and you don't romance Josie, that they do end up together by the end of the game.
They don't end up together.
They just have a thing.
They have a thing, and then by Trespasser, if you question him about it, he'll just be like, "Oh, yeah, that wasn't actually a thing. I could never. Our stations are too different." Like, it's the true like knight and lady romance where it's forbidden because she is literally a noble woman, and he is quote unquote nothing in his mind, at least at the time. But they do have like a flirty thing in Inquisition, but it doesn't come to anything by Trespasser.
Yeah, I just feel like if he had a little bit more self-confidence and had gone to therapy and worked out some of his issues, like I think he'd be a catch for a regular person with a regular job. Like I can see Blackwell like being with someone who like works at the tavern or owns a bakery or whatever. Like it's
Or like Hardy.
Yeah. Any of the regular people. I just feel like it's just not the right fit with the Inquisitor.
I agree with that. Now, on the flip side of things, where Sarah felt too young, Blackwell almost felt too old for me. Like, and it's nothing about him that reads specifically old, but I just felt like you are not the spry young man who's going to be able to keep up with me, let alone like keep up with the Inquisition. Like, how are you legitimately out here fighting? You seem like you're 60.
Yes, and it's like he doesn't even look old. Like he has a little bit of like gray in his beard, but like he's not an old man. He's not portrayed like Wynn in Origins. He just acts like a boomer.
Mm-hmm.
He and Wynn are probably the same age. Well, Wynn is no age anymore. But
okay. Please.
Yeah, I don't know. He just reads a little too old for me, which is very, very strange.
He looks like someone I would have to explain how to open a PDF to if he like lived in a technology.
Yes. But if he does actually become a Grey Warden, he's like in charge of something, isn't he? By Trespasser? Or like he's
something like that, I think.
He's like important. So then it'd be like my old boss and my old job who made literally triple what I made and then came to me and was like, how do I insert a photo in PowerPoint?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to show her. And I'm like, I literally make minimum wage. Are you joking? Anyway, that's Blackwell.
Okay, good summation. Let's move on to one of our favorites on the list. Cassandra.
I'm unfamiliar.
Okay. I'm just gonna say the listeners have already heard my thoughts when I guested on this show. They've already heard my rant. So I promise I will not do it rant all over again. So I'm opening the floor to the other three of you.
Austin, what are your thoughts on Cassandra?
I like Cassandra's romance. I do tend to agree with Shelby's rant. But I do like the romance. I like that. I really appreciate Cassandra's moment. And in a similar stance, and this comparison is really going to be like out of left field, but in Isabella's stance of Cassandra from the get-go is like, this is what I want. This is what I expect. If you can meet that, we'll do that. But if you don't want to meet that, then this is over. And I respect that.
Yeah, actually, as somebody, I romanced Izzy for quite a while in DA2, and yeah, I couldn't meet her standards of just wanting a casual fling, and that's how Cassandra lays it out as well. Like, I want this full-on courted, beautiful romance with somebody, and if you're not looking for that, if you're not at my stage in life, bro, get out. Like, that's a power statement.
But like as powerful as that is and as strong as she is, that's also so vulnerable to literally like she cracked her chest open and was like, please, I want to be wooed. I want romance. I know I don't look like the stereotypical girly girl who wants candlelit dinners, but I do. And I also love her for that because there's just so many positives to Cassandra. And that's one of them.
I think that one of the things that I appreciate about Inquisition, and I think that it really has a moment of like this has gone on in other games with romances, is like Inquisition gives you the opportunity to like actually have dates with people, like before you just okay, well, bang, okay, you know. But and so I really appreciate that. And Cassandra was one of those where you like actually had to woo her. And even Sarah, like you have to go around. One of the things I did like about Sarah is going around to each of the companions and being like, I need a gift for Sarah. And then I just like that idea that, you know, we'll get to the dancing with Cullen and doing all of the things around. Like, I just appreciate that about Inquisition. And,
it's two birds with one stone for me because it's like that you get more content that's not just straight up like a sex scene, but also it's including, at least for Sarah's, like it's including the people around you in the game, the other companions. It makes your relationship feel more real when they comment on it, when it's like acknowledged in the world outside of your cutscenes. I just love that when that happens. So please, more of that.
Yes, and I do think it's more immersive too to the game because it makes it feel less like a game and more like, okay, yeah, like this is actually what a real person would do. Like this is a fully fleshed out character, not just a check mark in a box or okay, I passed the dice roll. Like it's actually a little bit more than that. And I do appreciate that too.
Speaking of that, one of my favorite companion ambient dialogues is in a Cassandra romance with the Iron Bull, if you have him in there. And you're like walking around and Cassandra is like distracted or whatever. And she's like, huh? And Iron Bull just goes, you were too busy staring at that inquisi butt.
Oh. See, I love it when it's the other way around, when you're in a relationship with the Iron Bull and Bull asks Cassandra if the Inquisitor can borrow her armor for some fun play.
I've never heard that one. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I saw that one on YouTube and she immediately was like, absolutely not. Like, and he's like, we'd clean it afterwards. And she's like, no. Which I don't blame her for saying no, because how random, but a hilarious dialogue.
Yeah.
I really like how proper Cassandra is and like how flustered she gets when things are not done properly.
But she's also not,
Right.
because she's literally reading Swords and Shields. She wants everybody else to think she's proper when behind the scenes and when she's in private, she's not like that, I don't think. Personal opinion, I guess.
No, I agree with that. I think she's totally a lady on the streets, but a freak in the bed.
Yes. Relatable.
Also, isn't Swords and Shields based off Aveline?
I don't know if
Yes.
it's actually canonically. I mean, the character art is, but it's definitely canonically 100% smut.
Yeah. But I do think that it is based on Aveline. Like, don't they talk about that, though?
I don't remember. I know. I really don't remember.
I feel like Aveline would kick Varric's ass, though.
But I feel like Varric would do it just to piss off Aveline.
Also,
That's
probably.
true.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the main love interest's name is something like Donan or something. And Aveline's romance person is Donick. So, I feel like it's safe to say yes.
Also, now that we have covered all of the romances, I can officially state that for me personally, in my opinion, Cassandra has the most sensual non-sex sex scene out of all of them. And I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And I'm pretty sure she is the first like full frontal scene in Dragon Age. Not include like of a companion, not including the Inquisitor.
Well, I mean, Sarah shows her tits.
Oh, I
Yeah.
don't remember. I
She
need to replay
bounces
the
up and
game.
down on you. That you definitely see titty.
You see Sarah's titties and your Inky's titties.
Yeah.
But I feel like if Solus had not broken up with you in that scene, it would be right there with Cassandra's for sensuality. Like, who else? They both have such romantic scenes. You're like in this firefly lit waterfall area versus Cassandra's got like this candlelit forest. They're both great, except for one ends very happily and the other doesn't.
Yeah.
So Cassandra wins, basically, is what I'm saying.
I am remembering that you're saying that.
Sandra wins. Okay. All right. So moving on to Miss Josephine. This one is adorable, and I wish that I could like duel for her each time, but then like not actually be in the romance. Like that's what I want. I want that option in the game.
I have a confession to make. I really, really, really don't like the Josephine romance.
Tell us.
It's cute. Yes, it's very cute. And I don't think it's badly written. I think it's very well written. And I don't even necessarily think it's out of character. I just was expecting something different, I guess. And it also just frustrates me again. I feel like I'm a broken record here, but like when you romance her as a woman, it's a chaste romance. And I guess it is in both genders, but like it's just frustrating to me that so many of the lesbian romances in this game are lackluster or non-existent in Cassandra's case. So that turned me off to it when I romanced her with my Trevelyan Inquisitor. And I just was kind of bored. And I know that's a hot take. But it would go watch this in any Disney movie. I don't need it in my game too. And I know that that's like a personal preference, and this is mostly a personal preference, and it just, isn't my thing. So I didn't love her romance.
You also did her romance. You decided that you were going to ride the bull and then do her romance, which I think was a mistake.
That's fair. I did do that. Yeah.
You know what took me out of it is the dueling scene. And this to me is like, while she is a bi character, I feel like they still wrote her romance from the point of view of a male romancee, male player. Because if you ever watch the duel scene and the character is like an elf inquisitor or just any woman inquisitor, but especially the elf one because they're physically smaller than humans, they didn't change this cinematic at all when you win the duel and you pick her up and spin her around and you just see this like tiny elf Inky and like Josephine as the human woman. And so I'm like, to me, that like kind of, yeah, okay, I can suspend my disbelief enough that like Inky elf is so buff that she can pick up Josephine because Josephine, it's fine. But like it just looks awkward and looks like it was animated for a male character to do. And I don't even know what it looks like with a male elf because I think they're physically smaller too than like a human male in Inquisition. But it just kind of was silly looking. And I wish they had animated it differently for a lesbian romance versus a straight romance.
I am having chat search it as a dwarf Inky to see if they changed the scene at all or if they just body morph you to be taller, because that is going to be.
I actually haven't seen a dwarf romance. That's a good point because, like, I don't think a dwarf character could lift Josephine above their head enough to get her feet to like spin off the ground the way it is in the other cinematics. So I don't know. But that for me was like, oh, that they didn't. I mean, and I understand like a video game is a budgeted project, so I'm sure they didn't have enough money to animate separate scenes. I wish they did though. That's the thing. Is like that's pretty much the whole point of this podcast is showing how important the romances are, and studios, mainly publishers, because I think the developers are fighting for this content, but like publishers need to invest in it too.
Yeah. But I mean, I also understand that, like, Dwarf is not a popular player character. Like, not a lot of people pick them to begin with.
I don't think that's a good enough excuse personally, especially with Baldur's Gate 3, because you go on TikTok and you can see a little cutscene of like all the different animations that Larian made for every single different wild shape that a druid could take to climb up a ladder. And you're like, if they can animate that individual animal, different like climbing a ladder cinematics and all these different cinematics for different motions, like obviously it can be done. Like if one studio can do it, they can do it at another studio. Like it's just a matter of what they're prioritizing and what they're able to get money for, which is ultimately what the publishers are prioritizing, right? Which they should care about that level of detail, because we certainly do. I mean, look where it's got Baldur's Gate 3. Like it's one of the best games ever made by all accounts. So it pays off. It literally pays off too, because I'm sure they've made bank with all of us buying it.
Yeah, and I think it would be a little bit remiss if we didn't add, like, this is an effect of crunch. This is an effect of corporations expecting unreasonable standards and not giving their developers and their writers and their teams enough time and money and space to make the game the way the game should be made. Again, most of you, I believe, have heard my rants about BioWare, so we won't get on that, but I do think that's an unfortunate side effect that we see a lot of in Inquisition, because a lot of this stuff was added very late in development. I mean, look at Iron Bull's romance, and I think Solas's was added later too. And so it's just kind of like, yeah, and Cullen, and I'm sure there's more we just probably don't know about that, you know, it could have taken further polishing.
It's literally just a matter of money. Like I know for a fact, without being someone who ever worked at BioWare, but I know for a fact that people who made this game had so many good ideas and so many things that they had to change or had to take out entirely to fit the budget and fit the timeline. And once again, that's a matter of the people paying for it. What do they want? What do they think is important? What do they think we aren't going to care about? Yeah. So I hope this becomes more of a priority in future, as it seems to be so far.
All right. I think before we tangent further on a BioWare pay your people rant, let's go into our mid-break. Let's see. Oh, fun fact. So I believe this was yours, V.
Oh, yeah. So that's the one thing I wanted to talk about in the mid-break fact-wise was on our Iron Bull episode. I don't know if listeners, on Spotify, you can leave a question or a comment on each individual episode. And it's not a review. It's specific to an episode. And Ula, gosh, I forgot the last name. I'm sorry. But Ula left a comment saying that they didn't believe there was any mocap done in Dragon Age. And I had never heard this either, but when we did the Iron Bull episode, I did read that fact on the Dragon Age wiki. And so I Googled, like, was there mocap and who's the source for that? And apparently it was used very minimally. I found a source, which was John Epler, who works at BioWare currently as the creative director on Dreadwolf. He did this series of tweets called like Useless Facts. And one of them was about the Iron Bull romance, specifically the sex scene where all of the characters like Cullen and Josephine and Cassandra walk in on you. That was mocapped apparently, and also apparently the tower that you're having sex in was created separately to that tower. None other romance takes place in that tower because you had to have a doorway. And the bedroom for the Inquisitor has stairs, so it couldn't have the people like suddenly walking in on you the way they wanted for Iron Bull's romance scene. So they moved the scene to what they called the sex tower. And that was based on a tweet by John Epler last February 2023. So while I don't know, because I didn't work for BioWare, that's where I got the source from. So I can only trust what he said on his Twitter about there being motion captured scenes in Dragon Age Inquisition, because once again, I had never heard that either before, but that is apparently where that came from.
That is amazing, and thank you for doing that additional research on that to cite your sources.
Yeah, I always have sources available if anyone wants. I alphabetize them and do them in APA format, like the good little ex-college girl I am. So, if anyone wants to know where I got what I said or something, I'm happy to provide.
Yes. And speaking of those lovely comments that we get on the episodes for Spotify, we are now at 173 ratings. We're finally starting to tick back up again. I appreciate and love you all oh so very, very much. So hopefully within the first couple of months of 2024, we hit 200. That would be amazing. I literally had to look at the computer date to make sure that I said the right year. I am not in a 2024 mindset yet. All right. If we were on your Spotify Wrapped for the year, share it, show it, promote it, tweet it, Discord it to us. I want to see it. Last week we did see one person who showed that we were their top. Thank you, Daddy Bat Night. I appreciate. And then, of course, we also shout out all of our lovely, lovely top tier patrons. So huge love, major thanks to Toasty and Apollo, Becky and Daddy Bat Night, Miss Theos, Muffiny Cake, Mackenzie, and Wing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Anything else to add to the middle of the show?
Thank you for listening as usual and for supporting for those of you on Patreon. And if you can hear my cat's jingle bell, I'm sorry. He was a tumor on my lap. I can't change that. He's been here the whole time though.
No, I hadn't heard his jingle bell yet, so you're all good on there. And I have not heard any of the snip squeaky toys. So you're good.
There's been a lot of those.
We keep all animal noises in. Oh, there was something in chat I wanted to call out. Yes, about Karlak picking up the smaller male bodies. I love that so much.
Yeah. Oops, sorry. I dropped my phone if you heard that. That was my other thing, is like if they can change, because it's based on body model size for who picks up who in different romance scenes. Like they did it. Maybe they didn't. I don't know if they had that 10 years ago when they were making Inquisition, but who knows? Like, that's the direction we want to go, is where it's tailored and altered for every individual experience. And I'm glad we're going that direction.
Yes, very much so. All right, let's get back into it and we will talk about Dorian. I love Dorian. And I almost bought a $20 keychain off of Etsy. And I'm like, do I need this? I wanted it. I really, really wanted it. I've never even romanced Dorian, and I still wanted this thing. And it was fan art of Dorian in Shibari. And I still think about it to this day, even though I found it over a year ago.
If you're thinking about it that much, Jen, you should just go and buy it.
But it's in Europe, so I have to pay like $30 shipping to get it here on top of the price of the keychain, because I almost bought one for me and Kolka. And I was like...
So here's another idea. You take a vacation to Europe in whatever place this keychain is made and order it and get it shipped to you before you leave. Just
okay. I mean, I would love a European vacation, but yes, I kind of need it. Okay. Anyways, Dorian love. Let's talk about him.
I have never done this romance.
Shock. Really?
Mm-mm. There are 2 romances on this list that I've never done.
Oh, okay.
Is the other one soulless? I swear to God, if the other one's soulless.
It is not.
No.
So you should be able to process and eliminate it.
It's either Cullen or the Bull.
No, I think it's Blackwall.
No, damn Black Bull.
Well, I have no idea.
It's the bull.
You've never romanced Bull?
Nope.
I just need to process this for a minute. This is news to me.
I will say that one of the reasons that I have not done these romances is because I really like Dory Bull.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. Okay, so Dorian. I haven't romanced him either, but I really did like it. And when we were doing all the research on him, like, we know Dorian's a badass, and we know that, it takes a lot of courage for him to be so open and living his best life. And the fact that he states that, he's like, I am not going to be hidden. I am not going to be anything but who I am. And if that is who you want, then I am here. But I just need to know what you want. His morning after the first fucking was a really good one.
I think the reason I like Dorian's romance is because I feel like if you send him back to Teventer without a romance or even with Iron Bull, I feel like he is so alone and doesn't have really anyone in his corner. Like he has people, and we know that he does have Maevaris, but his father dies, and even they may not have reconciled, even if he did go back. And even if they do reconcile, their relationship's never going to be healthy or good just because of all the trauma that's there. I'm pretty sure his mom is dead too. And it's not like Teventer Magisterium is really a place to grow friendships. That's not what Teventer is all about. And so I just feel like if he doesn't have an inquisitor who's either really his best friend and they stay in contact, or a romanced inquisitor, I just feel like he's so alone, and it makes me really sad.
That's what I was going to say is one thing that I love so much about Dorian, besides just Dorian in general, is I feel like you don't lose out on that much knowledge of who he is as a person and content with him if you're just his best friend versus his romance. So many things are locked behind a romance quest line with all these other characters that you don't experience otherwise, but not Dorian. He still gives, which some people might feel cheated, I guess, if they romanced him. Oh, you still get that if you're his friend. But just me as a person thinking of him as a person, I love that fact because of what you just said. If you're his best friend, he still gives you that sending stone or whatever. That's Dungeons and Dragons. What is it? Some sending mirror or something you could talk to him for long distance.
It was like a necklace. So yeah, it is.
But he gives that to you whether you romance him or you're his best friend. So he can still call you up and chat with you. And it says you still keep in contact. You're still best friends. And I love that. And I love that you still understand who Dorian is as a person the same way. You might have obviously more intimate knowledge of him as a romance, but when you're his best friend, you still are there supporting him through meeting his dad. You're still there supporting him as a gay person from the Teventer Imperium and living his best life. Yeah, you're not romancing him, but you're his ride or die in that sense. And I love that about him. He's not locked away behind a quest line.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really easy to write off Dorian because oh, he's again, we get these characters like the Iron Bull and Dorian who are these have historically in Dragon Age been the bad guys. These are the bad guys. And I mean, I guess Sten, we have had Sten since the beginning, but it's different.
I mean, Sten is a bad guy in Origins. He just is. So
but Dorian to me is and I've said this before, probably on this show and definitely on the Dragon Age Lorecast, but Dorian and Miranda Lawson are two sides of the same coin for me because they're both created to be perfect legacies from their abusive fathers. And I just really like that. I like the opportunity to, whether you're his friend or your romance, to be a person in Dorian's life who just says, you be you, flaws and all, and it's okay.
Yeah. And whether it's Shepard or the Inquisitor, they need that.
Mhm.
Yeah, like you get such a good feeling from that. Like you're like, I did something good today. Validating someone's existence, being their friend regardless.
And I also think it's really powerful, just that romance and the point you're making, Austin, for people who maybe have parents who treat them the same way, of which there are tons and tons of people like that whose parents expect, a standard that nobody can live up to. So I think it's really powerful and something that a lot of people can connect with. I think that always is a major part of who is the most popular romance, why you romance someone is whether or not you can connect with them. I think we would be lying to ourselves if we tried to argue that wasn't a factor, because it just is.
Yeah. And Dorian also is a romance in, like, I think unlike a lot of them, where you get to actually put meat behind the words you say to him. Like, you can stand up to him, to Mother Giselle. You can stand up for him, to his father. You can do all of these things where you make what you say to him and matter. When it really matters for you to take the stand, you can take that stand.
Yeah. You can stand up for Dorian in a lot of different ways, and it validates him, and it makes him flourish. I don't want to see the playthrough where you completely disregard him and don't really like him.
Yeah,
I think that would hurt.
Yeah, and I think also something I want to bring up is I do think that there's a tendency, especially among white women who play this game, people who look like me. I think that there is a tendency among us to view Dorian as the sassy gay best friend. And he is so much more than that. Not that it's wrong to have a gay best friend, not that it's wrong to be sassy or fabulous. And he is fabulous. But that is not the sum of who he is. That is not only who he is. He is so much more than that trope. And don't get me wrong, I think tropes can be good if they're done well, but I just don't think Dorian fits into this one. I think that I think his story has a lot more like lasting staying power behind it than just being your sidekick. And so I just would caution those of us who may have a tendency to treat him that way, maybe go and dig a little bit deeper into who he really is.
Absolutely. That's definitely his outer layer. His outer layer is the sassy gay bestie. But then just beyond that is who he really is.
Yeah, because some of the criticisms for his character I've heard or read online are like all he is the sassy gay guy trope. Like, oh, he's so flamboyant and he's, like that's all he is. And because they see his sexuality as defining his character. And David Gator wrote him and he said, yes, his sexuality is a huge part of his character, unlike other characters in Dragon Age, because we've had gay people in Dragon Age, we've had bi people in Dragon Age before, but it didn't impact their personalities. It wasn't a part of their character's backstory the way it is with Dorian, because with Dorian, it was a way to show how it was just like a cathartic moment for, I think, a lot of gay people seeing him as a version of themselves, with the struggle with his dad and the struggle with fitting into his society, and how he was able to be himself despite all that, and also just flourish, like you said, and you could help him do that by supporting him. Like, it was necessary for his character to be partially defined by his sexuality, but he is not in whole just a sassy gay mage. Like, that is not who he is entirely. But he's such, like, I read a story about David Gator saying how so many people even years later will write him fan mail specifically about Dorian, and I love that. Like, that must be such a cool feeling to have written a character like that.
Before we move on to Cullen, I am going to do my Dorian confession, and that is I treated him very, very abusively in Trespasser DLC because I did not understand what the anchor did. I did not read the tooltips because I was like, I've been playing this game forever. I completely understand how it works. So, in order to move past the little areas where you're supposed to anchor away the barrier walls, well, come to find out that Dorian the Necromancer can walk through that, die, and then re-spiritualize and loot the items on the other side, and then you just revive him back on your side of the wall. So I killed Dorian like 30 times through that playthrough in order to make him walk through those walls. I didn't understand, okay?
God.
That just reminds me of, I watched a TikTok. Apparently, you can murder Asterion before you recruit him and then revive him. And he's like, let's not do that again.
Yeah, same vibes there. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So I'm sorry I abused the Necromancer. I own up to it. All right. Colin. My poor trauma boy that I just want to hug. I just want to hold him and soothe him in all of his pain. Let's talk about Colin.
So Cullen was my first romance in this game, because originally I tried to go after Cassandra. And we all know how that worked out for a female character. So I ended up with Cullen, which was so interesting because I never pick the traditional white man blonde. I will also say I never dated a white blonde guy before you. So just saying. Anyway, that is irrelevant to the story. Yeah, Cullen is not the he's traditional looking. He is oh yeah, the stereotypical cute white boy. You know what I mean.
He's handsome.
Yes. And I just wasn't expecting to go after him, but I don't know, something about his smile and his hair and his glow up, let's be real here for a minute, and also the sad puppy dog look in his eyes. I don't know, it just got me.
You mean the glow up from his ramen noodle hair getting cooked?
I was about to say, that's a thing in Korean. It's called ramen mori, mori meaning hair, and I'm I saw his hair, I'm he's got the ramen perm.
Yeah.
I'm
the
so
early
glad
2000s Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, it was not good. It actually took me a minute to realize he was the same Cullen when I first played Inquisition because he looked that different to me.
Right, yeah. And I think that, Inquisition is hot or cold when it comes to model changes.
Yeah.
Tegan, but I think with Cullen, for me, what really sells him for me is that it's such a moment of redemption of this man who we've walked through all three games. One of the few characters that is in all three games, no matter what choices you make. And so I just really like Cullen in that, this moment of redemption. There are also some of these romances, I'm some of them are locked in that to their race, but I think some of them are class. I think Cullen's romance is best experienced if you're a mage. And I think the Iron Bull is best experienced if you are not I think it can be good if you are a Kunari with a Tau de Shock, but I think it's best experienced if you're not. And I'll talk about that with Bull, but I just think that Cullen, especially with a mage romanced Inquisitor, is a moment of challenge to him. And in his darkest moment, he's lashing out. And you as the Inquisitor can be do you mean me? I'm a mage. I do this is what I am a member of these people that you're talking about. And he has to stop. And I just really appreciate, again, a moment of them being able to grow and change because of the relationships that they're having.
My favorite line that we talked about during the Colin romance was giving him the choice of what he wanted to do with Delirium. when you're not romanced and you're just friends with him, you tell him what to do. But with the romance option, you get to ask what he wants. And that felt so important and so meaningful in that moment.
Yeah, because like Cullen's like a story of loving someone through addiction, but I think even his larger character arc is overcoming prejudice and deprogramming because, he's raised in Thetis, he's raised in Ferelden where mages are evil. And then he was wanting to be a Templar since he was 12 years old. And and that's what he learned. And you can see he was even like radicalized in Kirkwall by Knight Commander Meredith. And for him to have been like her second in command to now romancing a mage potentially is so cool to see, because it's like it's such a hopeful story if you pursue that path with him. Once we're definitely going to talk about this when we get to Baldur's Gate, but like just because a game gives you an option and gives you a path in the story does not necessarily make it the best or right one. And in Cullen's case, I mean, you're just plain wrong if you don't tell him to stop taking lyrium. That's a stupid choice.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I do think when we think about terms of like representation in games, we think primarily of race, right? And gender, and LGBT, whatever you may identify as, or whatever you are, I should say. But we don't often think about, other types of representation like addiction. And I think that is really important for people to see. Not that necessarily every person wants to see what they may struggle with on the screen, but to present a story of a person overcoming something like that, I think is really, really powerful. And so I really appreciate that they included it. And I also feel like if you are a mage romancing Cullen, I do feel like it's kind of the height of his character arc, as you were talking about, Austin, because it's like, okay. And especially if you also, as a mage, are saying, no, don't take delirium, because it's like, number one, he's overcoming his issues to be able to be in a relationship with a person who is a magic user. And number two, he is getting off delirium. And so he's like achieved all of the things that are causing him trauma. He has like moved past all of these things, and he has like achieved the state of like actuality, of like your issues while you had them, while you may still deal with things, like you've moved past that stuff. And I think that's just something to be applauded. And so I love that. I also think about Cullen, I completely forgot what I was going to say.
Well, one thing I like about Cullen is that the authenticity of like romancing someone through addiction, but not making this like codependent thing. Like Cullen gets through it on his own. Like he has you there to support him, but it is an achievement. You aren't the one that like, he's like, oh, I never would have made this without you. He's like, no, I'm going to do this because I want to be with you, but because I want to be better for myself. And I just really appreciate them not portraying the trope of codependency that we sometimes see in like romance and addiction in media.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it actually worked out because it's like you encourage him because he's already made the choice to stop by the time it's brought up to you. It's not like you've convinced him to stop. You just convince him, or at least encourage him with your dialogue, to stay off of it. And I think that's important too, because it's like he's shown to have a support system, which is why if you do that, you're rewarded with the happily ever after, which obviously doesn't necessarily translate every time to the real world, but it's very, very cathartic to see that in a story where it's like almost a simple like equation, like a fairy tale is what I think of Cullen when, like, yeah, there's darker elements. It's like a Grimm's fairy tale but it still ends up happily ever after when you've encouraged him to stay off lyrium, and then you get married in Trespasser and you get a nice Mabari warhound, and it's just lovely. I'm low-key jealous of people who romanced Cullen.
I also, going off of what Austin was saying about the support system and what you were saying too, I love that the Inquisitor is not the only support person. Like Cassandra's in on it, and I believe like Varric has some party banter lines, like everybody is there to support him in this decision. So it's not like my sobriety is dependent on the Inquisitor, which is amazing.
And that's really true for the Inquisition. I think as Dragon Age games go, the Inquisition companions are the ones who feel the closest knit, like a family. Like, yes, Dragon Age 2 has their own brand of chaos and trauma bonding, but like, I feel like through ambient dialogue, and maybe this is just like moving forward in gaming, and Inquisition is a more planned out game than Dragon Age 2 was, but like they really feel like people who care about what's going on in each other's lives. Like even that of like, Solus and Bull playing chess in their mind throughout all of that. Like they develop their own personalities with each other, which I really appreciate. And I think that we see that in Cullen, like even just like, Josie and Liliana acting like his sisters who tease him all the time, and like, well, these noble women, they want to marry you. And
you see Liliana and Cullen like actually playing chess is one of his, and then you kind of move in and play with him. And that's what I like too, is it's not like all of them just revolving around the son of the player character. They definitely have their own friendships, and you can catch them having little moments wandering around Skyhold. And I love that so much. I wish that was in more games.
So I remember what I was going to say. Another thing that I love about Cullen's romance is really how it shines a light on what the Templars go through as a whole, like lore-wise. And I think Cassandra has a line about this that's something to the effect of like, the mages have made their suffering public, but the Templars never have. And so, before I played Inquisition, like I was a Templar hater, still kind of am. But like, I think that Cullen's story gives us a lot of empathy for the Templars, because like at the end of the day, the individual Templar people who are suffering, like they're not the bad guys. Like, yeah, they do bad things for sure, but like it's the system that is really the oppressive institution here. And so I do appreciate that also about Cullen's romance. And I think you see that mostly in the romance because he opens up a bit more about what he goes through versus just somebody who's a friend.
Yeah, for sure.
I will say this, you heard it here from the Dragon Age Lorecast on the Two Girls, One Ship. Hate the real enemy. Hate the Chantry. Hate the Orlean Empire. Hate the Tevinter Imperium.
Yep. Cheers to that.
Yep. Down with the sickness. Anyway, I was just gonna say everyone's actions make sense to them, and that's what I love about games like this that provide you context for why someone's doing something, and it makes it hard to tell who the actual evil person is. It's not really ever a person unless it's Cazador from Baldur's Gate 3. You know what I mean? Like it's usually a collection of people, an organization of some kind. Like it's not one person who's bad. They are doing something that they think makes sense. And that's the only way we can rationalize romancing a Ben Hasrith agent or a former Templar when I think we all were Templar haters who played Origins and who played Dragon Age 2, because I mean, I'm not really sure what the stats are and who picked Templars over mages when Anders was your companion, but you didn't have any Templar companion, like it's just a great way to blur the lines and make you question about like, what are people's actual motivations and who is the real enemy.
And like one thing that I think is unique to Inquisition from the other games is that all of our companions are like, the Inquisition isn't this like some renowned hero and then here are their companions who are their sidekicks. Like each companion and advisor in of themselves is a force of nature in their realm. Like Dorian is going to be a Tevinter Magister. Cullen is a former knight captain of the Templar Order and is commander of the Inquisition forces. Like all of these people are extremely important. It's like the A team of Thetis. And so I think with that you lead to, of course they have different relationships, and they're complex because a lot is riding on them to make the right choices, which I think makes it feel like more like a group effort because everyone has these huge choices that they have to make.
Yeah. We did assemble the A-team in Inquisition. That's
And speaking of choices, tell us your real thoughts on Solus?
Okay, so
Wait. Earlier today, Austin promised me that he would not, quote, hate on Solus the whole time. So I just needed to set the stage with that. Go ahead, proceed.
Okay, so I just want to I have my own issues with Solus, mainly because I do not think he's a good person. I do not think he's telling the whole truth of what is going on. But I also don't think Mythal was a good person either. And so I think they're both in cahoots with everything that's going on. But Solus from a romance perspective, and this is why it's really not for me. It reads like a Victorian romance novel.
To you.
To me. And like the sharing, charged looks from across the room. And what?
You're funny as well.
And anyway, so like that's kind of where it is. It's not for me. I get why people like it. I got the finger.
You did. Sorry,
Yeah,
this
Mom.
is the finger. This is the mom finger. My audio went out, and when it does that, it glitches everybody, and so then the whole audio track would have been really bad.
Okay. Where do I need to start from?
Nope, I stopped you at just the right time, so you're good.
Okay. So yeah, it's not for me. And as far as like, for me, like it's the similar thing of like, I feel like Solus holds all the power in the relationship. And maybe this is showing my bias of being a man raised in the world. But it's not fun for me to be with someone who I feel like holds all the power in the relationship. Like I feel like Solus is constantly setting the terms of what needs to happen. And it's different for me with Cassandra because I feel like Cassandra is inviting you to participate in what she expects in a relationship versus I sometimes feel like Solus is telling you what your relationship is going to be like, which is not for me.
I follow that path a lot. Like, I really do. With Cassandra, it's like, this is the type of relationship I'm looking for. Are you in? And with Solus, it's like, this is what this is going to be like, whether you like it or not. You can't really change his mind towards anything else. You can't really change Cassandra's mind towards a different type of romance either. But, oh. Cassandra's more inviting.
I think you guys are thinking of it from the point of view of you already know who Solus is and what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
When what you need to do is think about it from the point of view of the Llewellyn who romanced him, which is she knows what she knows when she knows it. And as far as she knows, like he's incredibly open to her and to us. Like even with our retrospect, we still can see how much he said without saying the whole truth to her. So it feels genuine because it is genuine. I mean, we have confirmation that it is, but it feels very genuine throughout the romance. I don't think in the couple scenes you get with him that are actually romance scenes, I don't think he's ever saying like, this is how I am, take it or leave it. He's just saying like, I don't think it's wise to be in a relationship, which to me as someone who's like, yeah, the world's on fire, like that's a reasonable reaction to consider. It's like, this probably isn't the best time for a romance. Other people might say this is the best time for a romance. We need some kind of stress relief, aka Iron Bulls type of romance. But just on the other hand, that is also a reaction I think is realistic, is saying like, this is a terrible time to start this. We don't know in the moment. Llewellyn doesn't know. He's saying that because he's Fenharel, you know, like we don't know that. So we go through this romance, we go through this year, 18 months, however long Inquisition is, before he finally breaks up with you at the end, like where you guys are on it. Like he calls you Mavanan, like my heart. He's in a relationship with you. He loves you. He says that openly. I don't think he's ever saying like, no, this is me, take it or leave it. He's just hesitant, which I think she has a ton of power with him because she, like, especially the first kiss, like she physically turns his head and kisses him first. You know, he did not instigate it. And then he reciprocated, obviously. And that happened on the balcony scene too. Like she was open, her arms are back. She like pushed her bust up into him and was like, yes, I'm here. Kiss me. And then, you know, she did and he tried to leave again. And it was all that. But I mean, when you think of it from that point of view, it doesn't seem like a bad romance. Like you were in it up until you weren't, which is why I think it's justified to react with a lot of anger. It's one of the dialogue options when he breaks up with you. But at the same time, I would never hit somebody. So I don't personally choose that dialogue option. She like shoves him or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. At that point, then I'm like, yeah, you can tell. Oh, shoot, he lied. Shelby said it a long time ago. I think on the Solus episode I was on with you guys where you said you respected him for never actually sleeping with you, unlike Blackwall, who did sleep with you under a false pretense. So I do think that's also a pro in Solus. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't understand his frame of mind at all. I don't understand his motivations. I know they make sense to him. And I know that the world he came from is not something the people of Thetis nowadays can comprehend. So it's just weird. I think it's a very unique and interesting romance where like these two people from literally different worlds like connected in such an intimate way without fully connecting in an intimate way. But, you know, like it's just really interesting. Where else can you romance the actual antagonist?
I agree with you, Vervada. I get the soulless romance. I've done it. I understand the allure. I get it completely. It's not like my canon romance, but I absolutely 100% understand soulless mancers. But I have 3 points. I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget any this time. The first thing that I think about this romance is when you look at it from an in-universe lore perspective, as a Dalish elf, when you meet Solus, he has so much knowledge about your culture that, of course, that would have to be so enticing as anybody, because he has so much more knowledge than you have probably ever heard your entire life. So on that level, again, I get it. Secondly, if Solus in the games looked like his original artwork, I would be down so bad for this man. Okay, like game over.
Yes.
Goodbye, Cassandra. Like I would be down bad for Solus.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he is an egg.
Yes.
Like it's I just like don't understand the dichotomy. Like, how did we go from that to this? I don't know. That's something that I wanted to bring up. But my third thing is kind of going back to what you were saying, Bravada, about the episode on our podcast is the thing about godhood. In retrospect is what kind of squicks me out a little bit, because like he is a god, he has all this power, he hides that from you. And so I just feel like there's a consent issue there that's like very gray to me. Like if, and also with Blackwall too, if you're like lying about who you are, entirely hiding your whole entire personality, like not your personality, but like your identity, I just don't feel like that's okay. I don't feel like that's ethical. And I know that in the game, you don't have sex canonically, although obviously soulless mancers say, oh, well, we did. We just didn't see it on screen.
Okay.
I just,
Sure, Jan.
I just feel weird about it, because I think perhaps this is probably why they didn't include a sex scene with the soulless romance, because I do think it's just a little weird when you think about like the power imbalance that you might have with somebody who's that much more powerful, and maybe not status, but I don't know. There's
No,
just
when you were saying that, I had a thought. So my two, it's not like a counterpoint because I don't have an opinion. Like, we've been writing stories about humans or mortals having sex with gods since the dawn of time. Like, we're just fascinated with that idea. Which, yeah, obviously there's issues there. Like, look how many freaking bastard Zeus children walked around ancient Greece. So, but anyway, like with Solus specifically, my thing is one, he has knowledge, like he's mentally that age, but I'm not sure because he woke up, he couldn't even unlock his own orb. Like, he's not at full power when you know him and when you fall in love, and you have a piece of his power in your hand, which I don't know. I have no opinion on whether or not that makes it better or not. I just wonder if that changes something, like, because he really isn't that much more powerful than you at the time. Like, he can't close the rifts and you can, which then eventually he does get back up to at least close to what his old power used to be by Trespasser, because he can, like, Gorgon people to stone and take your hand away, which at that point you're not together anymore. So, I mean, I feel like he strives to do the right thing and he just fucks it up constantly, which is evidenced by the veil existing, you know? I mean, I don't know. Then that's why his name is Solus. Like, his pride will be his downfall. I hope not death, but you never know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I think for me, I will just add, I think it's weird in the Greek mythology too, like to have a literal god having sex with a mortal. I think that's weird. It freaks me out. So I'm just being consistent for myself
Yeah,
here.
I don't think, I mean, I think 99% of those stories were assaults,
Yes.
not consensual sex. So yeah, I agree. There is a huge, because I cannot sit here and say it's fine for Solus to romance Llewellyn when I'm like fraternization all throughout Mass Effect. You know, like, there is a power imbalance here. It's not okay. And in most cases, you're the Inquisitor and someone's answering to you. But in this case, it's like an actual demigod or god or whoever. Like, he says they were just powerful mages, but like half of the shit we know about Arlathan were from Solus's mouth. So I don't know. Maybe it's true.
Yeah, I mean, we recorded our podcast episode for next week today and literally talked about this same exact thing of like, can we believe Solus? How much of what Solus says can we believe? And I think that we talked about, you know, Patrick Weeks, Solus's writer, has said like Solus doesn't explicitly lie to you. He just twists the truth and changes its meaning so you think it's about something different. So I personally just like am not in the habit of taking anything Solus says as fact, because who knows how it might change. And so I personally don't subscribe to the theory that the Evanuris are just powerful mages. And frankly, even if they are just powerful mages, functionally, they function as gods in the society. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
You're accurate. Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I think, once again, I'm trying not to be a hypocrite. I still like it. Like, whole experimentation with sexuality aspect of video game romances also includes role-playing things that you probably wouldn't want or could not exist in real life. And romancing a god is something I think most people would be intrigued by, but maybe not in real life. Like, there's how many romance novels written from that, because there is something so delicious about the idea of bringing such a powerful being to heal with the power of your pussy or your love. However, you know, very appealing. So
You just described every Fae romance novel.
yeah, exactly. Which
Sarah J. Maas.
Yeah, Sarah J. Maas. Literally everyone in Kindle Unlimited. Like, exactly.
Yeah, and like I don't want it to come across as if I dislike the Solus romance, because again, I get it. I like it. I think it's very Shakespearean. I think it's very classic in terms of tropes, in terms of the story plot points.
Victorian romance.
Yeah, it's very Victorian. I also personally I enjoy Angry breaking up with Solus. Like when he initiates the breakup and you choose the angry responses. I like that. That's fun. It's sad, sure, also for sure. But I do think there's just something really satisfying about playing Inquisition and romancing Solus.
So I haven't spoken since the beginning of this conversation.
Go ahead.
But I think that, like, I just want to say here for the show, for everyone, that I do not hate Solus. He's not even in my top 10 most hated Dragon Age characters, which I did a list of somewhere in the Discord. No idea where it is, but I know Solus didn't make the top 10. I actually think Anders didn't even make the top 10.
I'm pretty sure he did, but
Yeah, I
Go
was like,
ahead.
I'm pretty sure he did. I was there for that.
Oh, well,
anyway.
Who's number one?
I think it was either
I think it was Meredith.
it was probably Meredith or
That's
Hal.
fair.
I think it was Jowan, actually.
Yeah, I hate Jalen. Jalen is everything I hate about Anders with none of like his redeemable qualities. And so
We're talking about Inquisition.
anyway, my Jalen doesn't exist in Inquisition. But Solus, for me, it's just not for me. The romance style, it's not really what I want out of when I romance someone. I think Solus has a lot to offer lore-wise, and I think that there are moments, especially in the romance, where you do get to see more of his compassionate side versus you do, and like you get a little bit, especially in the his companion quest with the spirit. You get a lot of his compassion and a lot of things. I still want to know why Solus hates the Grey Warden so much. Just want to know why. He has like a disproportional response to the Grey Wardens versus everyone else. And I think that we can't leave with Solus without talking about, there are a lot of like criticisms of Solus being racist, especially towards the Dalish elves, towards dwarfs, towards Kunari. And you can change his mind a little bit, both as a friend and as a romance. But I think one time you have to experience that like Solus is wrong for what he says about those races. Like he is wrong for those, but he is also dealing with a world that he no longer understands, where none of these races were thousands of years removed from the world he knew. And so nothing looks like, it's kind of like Javik saying the Solarians used to eat flies.
Oh my God. And like, you can't
love that
fix
line.
Javik at all. Like, he just stays the same. That's what I think is like, it's less for me about racism and more about Solus just has contempt for the entire world as it is now and everyone included in it. And you can make him realize he's wrong, which is a testament to whatever character he has left or whoever he really is. You know what I mean? Like, it's impressive to me that someone so prejudiced and prideful and set in his ways could at all even admit that he is wrong. And he does. He literally says those words to you. So that's why I still will appreciate Solus as a character and as a romance, because there is that little chance of redemption there by him admitting he's wrong in Trespasser and before that. So I will not lose hope. And also, I think Solus Mancers have a unique place in this next game, potentially. I hope that it might impact something in Dreadwolf that non-romanced Inquisitors for Solus maybe don't get. At least that's my hope. Holding on to this for 10 years almost now. So we'll see.
Okay. My thoughts on Solus romance. I think that Solus and I got off on the completely wrong foot in the very beginning because I played as Kunari and he called me a savage. And it was so reminiscent to the way that Fenris treated me in DA2 that I was just like, yep, nope, rub me the wrong way out the gate. I'm probably not going to like you. So it took me a really long time for me to even start raising Solus's likability. It wasn't until Vivienne started making my man call her ma'am that I was like, yep, nope, you are no longer the caster in my party, Vivienne. You're out. So I started bringing Solus along, and Solus treated Iron Bull with much more respect than he treated me. And so I was like, okay, fine, you can hang around for a little bit more. And that's when I started to turn my idea. By the end of the game, Solus and I were total besties. He's just not the romance option for me. It's not who. Oh, I totally get it. And the more that you talk about him, I totally understand it from your point of view. But for me, even on my first mostly blind playthrough, I just didn't like Solus because he treated me like a complete and utter asshole because of my race.
He can be an asshole for sure, and it gets worse if you're mean to him too. But he doesn't give you any benefit to being nice to him at first if he's acting like that. So you have to be the one to give out the olive branch, you know?
Yeah.
Some people don't want to do that, and that's fine.
Okay. I think we can end the Solus chat on there. And on that note, don't be an asshole and he will learn to be nice to you.
It's rule number 5 in our Discord server. Don't be an asshole.
Rule number 1 on like a lot of chats that I'm in, Discord servers, even this Twitch chat. Rule number 1 is don't be a dick. And yeah, try to live by that. Except in video games, because it's the one place where I go if I'm playing a male character, if I have a dick, I'm gonna be a dick.
You can swing it around.
Oh my god, I had way too much fun when Jiggle Mechanics came out. But that is a completely different topic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Jiggle Mechanics with the Iron Bull,
Jiggle
that kind of fits.
And swinging from chandeliers are all things you can do when you romance the Iron Bull.
Yes. Yes, they are. Another time with Inquisitor titties being out. I love that. I mean, bull titties are out 24/7. His pillowy man bosom. Why do I feel like him and Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy would really get along?
Oh, Drax.
Yes.
I feel like Bull would teach Drax like about metaphors. Like he would be so annoyed at Drax not understanding metaphor and would be like, no, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna understand this because I'm being hilarious and you're not getting it.
Yeah, I feel like he would have to explain what ride the bull means. Like that would be hilarious. I would pay money to see that.
Yes. And now I need to stop thinking that. Okay. Anyways, beautifully done. I think that this is one of the best representations that we have from a AAA studio in an RPG that is not a visual novel of a relationship dynamic like this. I love it. It's amazing. But I kind of also spent an hour and a half talking about it already, so I'm going to let other people talk about it.
I'll just go first and say I really love the bull romance, especially just like, again, we've talked a lot about boundaries this episode, and he is very clear in his boundaries, and then they change, and you have a conversation about it. You have multiple conversations about it, and that's awesome. I love that that's depicted. But I will say, Vervada, listening to your thoughts on the episode, was a little bit enlightening because I know you don't necessarily like love this romance. And I can definitely understand that for some people, it may not be for everyone. But I do still like Bull. And I think that he is a great person to kind of like expand our view of the Qunari from a lore perspective, because like we have archetypes of them before we meet Iron Bull. Like, okay, yeah, we see the Arashok and Sten, and neither of them open up very much. So we really ain't got much to go on anyway. So I think that Iron Bull is a great person, a great character that opens that up. And hopefully we'll get more Qunari lore in the next game.
For sure. I loved the fact that we got to know a lot more about like the Iron Bull is another one that I feel like is along the lines of Garrus, where it's like Garrus is a bad Turian because he's not good at following Turian law. And Iron Bull, if you go down the Charger's path, he's not a very good Kunari. He's not a good Kuhn member anymore. And so to get his perspective on what the Kuhn was, what it meant to him, and how important it is a really good viewpoint. So we don't get that at all. Along the lines of the Iron Bull romance, Shelby, we have a mutual friend on Discord who once told me that she had been questioning things in her own real life until the moment that Bull shoved her up against the wall and she gasped alongside her Inquisitor and solidified some things in her mind. And I was like, yeah, I know that feeling.
That's very relatable. Very, very relatable.
It did nothing for me. I did have a question because I forgot to mention this in his episode, and I don't know how you guys will think about this, but because I don't really know if it's worth criticizing the game for, but there were a few people who said they didn't like that the safe word Kato was given as an option, but that you never say it. It's like rewarded almost for never saying it. Like Cole alludes to that in a ambient dialogue of how like it's a brighter burst, so she doesn't say it for her and for you or whatever the gender is, because Beryl is pan. But and because people are like, in a real BDSM relationship, especially with someone who had never been involved in that type of relationship before, they would probably be saying their safe word fairly frequently, or at least once or twice while they're learning how it is, what the feelings are like, what the boundaries are. Maybe they won't feel safe immediately because the trust hasn't built up enough yet in the beginning. And to treat it like a sort of goalpost of like, oh, I just need to not say it to prove my worth to Bull, as kind of painted as a good thing in the game. People didn't like that. But I'm like, okay, well, let's just be happy we have BDSM in a main RPG game. Like, let's start here. You know what I mean? But I am not at all versed in that world. So I didn't even know if that was something worth criticizing or not. But I see Jen has so many thoughts.
Oh, yes, I do. Oh my God, this is amazing. So that is a very good critique of this. And the fact that Bull gives you one safe word for full stop is a criticism. Most relationships that I know of have a multi-level step, especially the color coding system. You assume the light is always green. Yellow is you are approaching a limit, so we can stay at this point, but don't push me further. And red is okay, that has gone beyond a limit. That is your Kato, that is your stop. Now, so that, giving the option of the stop, you've gone too far, is, I think there should have been a yellow card in there somewhere. There should have been I like this, but don't go further. But it's also a testament to Bull's skill level, because I could see it as Bull is only going to push you as far as where he knows that you can go, because he's done this before. He's comfortable in the systems. You're not his first. So he knows where to start people at. He knows where to progress people to. He knows where a lot of people's limits are, and then we'll slowly test them and push them out further.
I guess that tracks with the "I'll give you what you need" dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that part of it is also just from a mechanic standpoint, like the more options you give, the more lines that one of their more expensive voice actor has to voice. And just from other standpoints. And so they were trying to give like something that would probably be rewarding for someone who does have experience with the BDSM. I don't say that right. Relationship, and so that they can experience it to the way that they would want to do that. So they did that in the way that would be cost effective, and that's probably my guess
That
of
was
why
my that was my first reaction when I read that, was like, well, is that expecting too much from a video game? Like, the fact that it even exists in the first place, like with all of the different moving parts that go into these having dialogue wheels or dialogue choices and different animations and stuff. It's like, I mean, there are certain things that we can and should expect them to include, like cinematic differences between body types and having different body types at all represented. Those are things that we should have. But as far as like the intricacies of BDSM, like safe words or watchwords, as he called it, like having a yellow light one and a red light one, I mean, I don't know, like, if that is feasible or if they can do it or if it matters as much in the context of the game. Because, like you said, it does fit in with his character to exactly read you. And he literally says, I'll give you what you need, like right before it starts. So I think I understand it as a criticism, but I don't think anyone should be taking any game relationship and completely translating it to real life as a good example of such a relationship and using it as like valid reference to pull from. I don't think you should be doing that at all. It's a story and it's meant to, you can learn from it a little, but it's mainly meant to like give you an emotional high or low, some kind of catharsis, some kind of like living vicariously. That's really what stories do.
Right. And I think from another standpoint to this criticism, like, I know we joke, but these games are not dating simulators. Like, that is not their purpose. That is not their main point. Like, as much as we love the romances, they're like a very close, like, secondary thing to the main purpose of the game. Like, they're big deals, and I like them in the games, and I like them fleshed out and all of that stuff. But I also want to go and cast fireballs on dragons. Like, I don't want to spend all my time in a dating simulator because I'm married and I can just go on a date.
Yeah, I think to kind of pick up on that a little bit, I think that this criticism is a little bit nitpicky. And I think as gamers, we have a tendency to be nitpicky about the things that we want to criticize, because I don't necessarily feel like the dialogue from Cole that I think you're referencing implies that, oh, well, it's a good thing if you hold out. I think that it's just Cole commenting on the fact that internally, sometimes the Inquisitor is like, oh, should I say it? I don't know. No, let's keep going. So I don't necessarily think that it's implying all of that. I think it's reading into it a little bit much.
Yeah. And especially, of course, I can go down a huge path about what I think was happening
Wait.
when Cole figured out this. What?
My other question was, if you say, because I couldn't find this out when I looked briefly, but if you say Kato to him, does it end the relationship with Iron Bull or just the scene?
Just the scene.
Okay.
Yep. Just the scene, not the relationship. So it's not like a stop means stop forever. It's just a.
Well, yeah. It's serving its purpose, though, which is what he said it would do, which is stop.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. All right. I don't want to stop here, but I think that we should. I have one other little fun fact about this to throw out there, and then we will go to more plugging. I've been rewatching Project Runway, and just because it's a total comfort show, and I love all the fashion from it. There's a designer who was on a season and then was also on the current All-Star seasons that I'm watching right now, and her name is Kato. And so I've heard this name like 500 million times in the last week. Kato, Kato, Kato. And I'm like, quit saying Kato. I've been dying all week. It's hilarious.
I've been dying to know how this Project Runway line was going to tie in. But I'm curious, is it like a pen name? Like, is it her actual name, or is it, do you think, a Dragon Age reference?
No. She's Liberian, and it's spelt
Okay.
differently than the word. They just they pronounce it Cateau, but it has like an R in it. It's like Cortoa, but she pronounces it as Cateau.
Gotcha. Sad, but okay.
Yeah, no, it's not a reference. But yeah. So there we go. We will Cateau here. Cups, shout out everything that you guys do.
Yeah, so we are the co-hosts of the Dragon Age Lorecast, obviously, as I hope you've deduced from this episode. And we are also the co-hosts of the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. So if you are interested in the lore of Dragon Age or Assassin's Creed, definitely come check us out. We release episodes weekly, and we have our own Discord server, which is, as we've discussed, very reactive, a little bit crazy, and just generally a really good time. So come on over. If you enjoy video games of any kind, come hang out with us. I do always say it's the best place on the internet, and I do genuinely believe that. So come hang out with us. The link is in all of our episode descriptions. You can find us on all the podcatchers.
All right. And if you like what you're hearing, please be sure to leave a review on iTunes on all of our shows and on Spotify, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can now find me on the Cyberpunk Lorecast with my co-host Toasty, where we explore the foundations of the past, the state of Night City today, and the news, the future for all things cyberpunk, including Teacup's playthrough. I'm going to start talking about it, even though I know nothing about what choices your V has made so far.
Yeah, I've made stuff. Actually, no, I haven't made any choices because I've barely gotten out of tutorial.
Oh, you're still in it. Trust me,
Yeah.
you're still in it.
Yeah, I just got to the point of I found the hospital, surprisingly armed hospital people came to take the body of this girl I found.
Yeah, you are so
Oh my
still in the
gosh.
tutorial.
You played like 5 minutes.
Right?
Well, I'm bouncing between that and Baldur's Gate and playing through Assassin's Creed Mirage.
Fun. And then be sure to check out Scyther Audio's newest fan-made production, The Avengers, the audio drama, where you can find me and a bunch of our friends as the voice actors. And you can reach me in our Two Girls One Ship channel on the Robots Radio Discord and in the Cup server. I am Warden Commander. And come give us a follow on all the social medias on patreon.com/2girlsoneship. Our theme music was composed by the ever-talented Pipeman Studios, and our artwork was designed by the esteemed Let's Not. Links to those are in the description.
You can also find me on the Robots Radio Discord and on our own Two Girls One Ship Discord server, which is way less active than the Dragon Age one, but still fun sometimes because we nerd out on all our favorite CGI significant others. Be sure to check out our live streams on Twitch on Fridays at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Our podcast episodes release on Mondays because you need at least one good thing on a Monday.
So thanks for listening, and remember,
Beauty is in the eye of the controller.
yay!
Sad we're totally done with Dragon Age.
I'm so sad. It's going to be a really long time before we have another one of these.
I know.
It is really sad, like over a year probably, which is very sad.
I'm done
But-
waiting.
I know, me too. We've been bitching about it like all day in the Discord server. But you know, I said this earlier, like I do have hope that we are going to like actually get the full details, full press marketing in the summer, like they said. Because I genuinely don't think that EA is going to let them continue to drop the ball anymore, or they're just going to cancel the game. Like I think those are the options that are in front of us. So
would be broken if they cancel it.
Yeah, me too. I think we'd stop doing the podcast.
Honestly,
yeah, it would just be really demoralizing. Like, you know, I mean, and eventually, like, we're just going to run out of content.
Yeah.
So It is what it is. At least we'll always have Assassin's Creed because they churn out content like every day.
Can EA take
Yeah.
a page out of Ubisoft's book? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the bigger issue is that I think BioWare has been mismanaged for a long time. And I don't necessarily think they're being managed well now either, but I think that mismanagement is really killing them. Then along with obviously the corporate squeeze from EA doesn't do any help there. So there's just probably a lot of factors going on. But yeah, hopefully it'll be good and it will come out and we'll get new characters that we love. But
Yeah. I'm also kind of sad for it because one, we know Colin's not going to be in it. And we know that the Iron Bull's not going to be in it.
yeah.
And I don't think that we've heard from anybody else that they're not in it.
You don't think they'd be ballsy enough to recast Colin?
I actually
Ooh.
think Gail's voice actor would do a great Cullen.
Yes.
But I
And,
have heard, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that the voice actors who play Morrigan and Flemeth both have not been approached. But this was like a year or two ago, so I don't know if that's even accurate anymore. Who knows? So I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see what happens. I just think BioWare is really struggling right now, and I hope they can get their shit together and like be a good company. But I just think with the corporate squeeze from EA, it's going to be an uphill battle for sure. So we'll see.
Thank you guys for coming in for the first episode of the year.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Thanks for having us on as always.
I think we stayed pretty well on topic, even though this recording is an hour and 50 minutes long, I think. Yeah, but I can cut some stuff out. But we stayed on topic pretty much the whole time, which is crazy.
We just have a lot to say.
That we had 8 characters to cram into an hour.
It is a lot.
We did our best.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when we have disagreements, we have to unpack. For some people.
Awesome.
Also, I love you and thank you for bringing up the question about like safe wording and stuff like that, because
Oh yeah,
I really
meant to
love
do it
diving in.
his episode, and then I totally forgot because there was just
It
so
ended
much
up being
to
an
talk about.
hour and a half, 2 hours
Yeah.
long.
And then I
Yeah.
remembered that, and I'm like, all right, I definitely have to bring it up for the wrap up because I think I don't know. I saw the criticism enough times that I wanted to address it, and I don't have the education or experience to address it, but I wanted to bring it to the forum.
Yes. All right. Twitch stream, we love you all. Thank you so much for chatting it up tonight. Jessica and Bat Knight was here, and he finally got Baldur's Gate 3. Good job on him. And Muffiny Cake, love you.
Probably asleep
And
by now.
probably. Looks like Cass was here for a minute. Yeah.
You
Couple
guys
people
be
still
sure to
out
come
there
next
lurking.
week. We're starting on Shadowheart.
Oh, yeah, I gotta talk to Toasty.
He's supposed to come on.
Yeah. He
Of course you
claimed
like
dibs.
Shadowheart.
Oh, he
You know
claimed
who
dibs
else
like
does?
day one.
This guy. I just feel like it's a boy thing. Like, I don't get it.
My husband doesn't even
get
care
it.
about Baldur's Gate, and he's like, "It's Bay" every time Shadowheart comes on. I'm like, "You
Oof.
have no dog in this fight. What are you talking about?"
I don't get it.
Look, I have a thing for the person who has a complicated relationship with religion and just needs to heal from the trauma of their religious institution.
You know what? He's got a point on that one. Oh no, and my internet crashed. Super cool.